Please tell us about yourself. What are your interests and hobbies? Hi, I'm Aileene Pano, a graduate of Bachelor of Secondary Education, major in math, and at present I have 45 units in Master of Education with the area of specialization in SPED and inclusive education and a licensed teacher. It's been 16 years since I had given the opportunity to teach deaf in Bible Institute for the Deaf, where they focus on educating the deaf. This is where I realized that I really wanted to be in this vocation because I find it very self-satisfying to help and give hope to those people with special needs. After my 6 years in the private school, I decided to apply in the public school and luckily was given the chance to teach at Relogio Rodriguez Integrated School since 2008 up to present. Here, I teach the deaf and some of them are deaf with other special needs and I also interpret for them. In 2011, another opportunity came in when I got the job at LaSalle Green Hills Adult Night High School as part-time sign language interpreter. I'm also a member of Philippine National Association for Sign Language Interpreter and Masters has a group of interpreters in Assemblies of God churches. I'm also a volunteer sign language interpreter in some of the churches in Manila. With my eagerness to impart skills and knowledge to my students, I enrolled in a short course in baking cakes and pastries, which has an equivalent of national certificate too. These are some of the special skills that I have like decorating, drawing, painting, dressmaking, cooking, and baking, which aside from doing this as my hobby, this also makes my teaching job more creative and interesting to my special learners because they too are naturally artistic and we can share a common interest aside from that they can express their thoughts and ideas through arts. I also have my personal interest, which I engage my student in it, as their way to develop self-esteem and socialization, of course with the permission of the parents. 3 to 4 times a year, I go for mountain hike or trek. I make sure to have my workout at least 3 times a week at home, and sometimes yoga at school with my student or jog at the park with friends. It is very important also for me to take care of my intellectual needs, so I have a lot of collections of books at home to read, especially the self-help books. In addition to the skills and personal interest, my success as professional teacher is a huge part of who I am. So I'd like to share 4 important strengths which would bring more success to the job. Of course, my skills in sign language. Without this, I would not be a successful teacher in the area of SPED. Second, creative thinking. Most of the people who knew me, they said that when God poured out talents on earth, I was the one who was first in line. Third, creative thinking. Every problem that had happened to me, I figured it out before finding the best solutions. And lastly, my dedication. Teaching is not just a job for me, it's a noble vocation. Are you involved in extracurricular activities that you could coach or supervise? Usually, every time we have an art-related contest like drawing, painting, photography, fashion design, and cooking, I do the coaching job. Why did you decide to become teacher, a special education teacher? Never dreamt to be a sped teacher, but because of my first teaching experience in the Bible Institute for the Deaf, it made me realize that teaching special children, especially deaf, is more challenging, yet interesting. Teaching indeed is a noble profession, but I think teaching special children is the noblest of all. Are you currently employed as a teacher? Yes, at Eulogio Rodriguez Integrated School, which I work as full-time teacher, and at LaSalle Green Hills Adult Night High School as part-time sign language interpreter. How many hours per day do you teach and how many days per week? In the public school, I have 6 hours a day of teaching from Monday through Friday. And in the private school, I have 4 hours from Monday through Friday and 5 hours during Saturdays. Briefly describe your teaching experience. What special education subjects have you taught and what grade level? I teach math, MAPE, and technology and livelihood education to the junior high school deaf from grade 7 to 10. Usually, it's a multi-level setup due to scarcity of teachers in SPED. This is a self-contained program also where we can modify the curriculum that we get from the regular class. Briefly describe other work experience you have had besides teaching. Aside from teaching in the public school, I also have an interpreting job. I'm a sign language interpreter in both public and private schools. Simultaneously with an arranged schedule, I do interpreting for our senior high school deaf where they are in the inclusive program, aside from teaching our junior high school deaf in the self-contained program. After my job in the public school, in the morning I have to run to my afternoon till evening job at the Salvador Hills Adult Night High School, where I serve as a sign language interpreter. Being a sign language interpreter, there are many things to consider in order for me to understand the culture and be understood by the deaf. Have you ever worked in the United States? If so, when, where, and why? No. What do you hope to be doing professionally 5 years from now? Probably I will have my own school that cater both regular and special children, or maybe put up my own restaurant that could offer jobs for special children. If I were to talk to several of your colleagues, how would they describe your personality? My colleagues describe me as hardworking, focused, determined person. Maybe they observe me that if I have a goal to achieve something, I do everything just to have it. How would your students say about you? My students would always say that I am strict and firm teacher, but a loving one. How do you prepare to teach your lessons? Before I teach my lesson, I have an activity that will motivate my students to pay attention and be curious with the lessons. Most of the time, I use intrinsic motivation that will help them aim the goal for internal satisfaction. Though as teachers, sometimes we cannot avoid to spoil our students with extrinsic motivation. What would your lesson plans include? In my lesson plan, I have included the following: objectives, subject matter, procedure, evaluation, and assignment. Think about a class that you have taught recently. Talk about two of the teaching strategies. In the subject where I taught teaching strategies, I use first is demonstration, which in my experience is very effective for my students, aside from the fact that they cannot hear and they just learned what they saw. And the main objectives of this strategy is to develop the psychomotor and cognitive domain of learning of the special learners that really fit to their needs. And the second one is cooperative learning. Deaf have their own way of making their fellow deaf understand with the so-called deaf way communication, where they can express their ideas and thoughts. And another benefit is the more advanced students can assist the less advanced students. And students also become active and engaged by exchanging ideas, comments, and insights. And as teacher, I noticed that students recall and comprehend the lessons more than when they work individually. What method do you use to grade or evaluate your students' progress? I use both the traditional assessment method and non-traditional assessment method. For traditional, I use paper and pencil like quizzes, assignments, and tests. At the end of the periodicals, I gave them a summative test as my tools to assess my students. While for non-traditional assessment, I prepare a performance-based assessment for every quarter to make sure that my students really understand the lessons learned, and measure the students' ability to apply the knowledge and skills learned from the unit of the study. Another one is the direct observation, especially in my math subjects. Observing and questioning directly my students while they are engaged in their math activities can produce necessary and critical information according to their level of understanding to develop skills and thinking process. They also have the portfolio where they are responsible to collect the results of their works and activities like quizzes, homework, tests, summative tests, and that serve as evidence to measure their progress as per supervision. If you use technology in your teaching, describe how you use it. Specifically, describe your experience using a smartboard and the ways that you can incorporate it in your lessons. Since I am a public school teacher and our country belongs to a third world country, Personally, I don't have any experience using smartboard, but teachers in the public school can still be innovative without smartboard. But speaking of technology, I can only share my experience with the technology that is available in my classroom. Aside from the video clips and PowerPoint presentations, I usually grab the opportunity to get a free registration on some education website that offer games, activities for the class that is related to my lessons like www.softschool.com, www.ixl.com, and a lot more. They can engage themselves in learning and enjoy the activities using their cell phones at the same time. I can access the and supervise the learning of my students. If you have students who are noisy or non-attentive, share with us two ways to get them to be quiet and concentrate. I usually did it every time I caught my students who are noisy and non-attentive. I give him or her self-explanatory thoughts on a piece of paper or ask him or her to share in the class after the lessons. Or sometimes I approach him or her asking if she can lead any games that serve as icebreaker in the class. Describe the most difficult problem you have had to deal with as a teacher and how did you solve this problem? I remember when one of the parents called me in the middle of the night, so worried, looking for his son, who is my student. And that morning, before started in my class, that student came to me to confess that he had a sexual affair with his bisexual classmates, and he was so afraid that his mother might know it. The reason why he hid from his mother yesterday night. That student has a suicidal tendency and is emotionally very weak. Every time he got frustrated or even upset, he lost his pulse or overdosed himself with medicine. He always threatened people with his suicidal tendency. I also called the attention of his classmates asking if this student is telling the truth, and he confirmed it. After that, I had to arrange a meeting with his mother telling the problem of his son. In our meeting, I advised the mother to seek help of a professional that could help her son with his problem. And on our part, we call a mature deaf pastor where they can confide with their problems, since we know that they have their own way of expressing themselves. Give one example to show that you are a flexible person and that you can make changes to your teaching and methods if that is necessary. This usually happens to my class. Of course, I cannot expect my students the 100% comprehension of my lessons after giving an assessment and the bad result came in. I had to repeat my lessons with a modified activity-based strategy. For example, my lesson in integers. This is usually the problem of the students, even in the regular class, more so with the SPED class. They are so confused and dealing with the signed numbers, so I have to discuss the lessons again with more real-life and familiar examples for them. Like, for example, the outcome when money is earned or lost. Is there anything you would like to add about your qualification that we may not be even aware? Yes, my on-the-job training in New Era University and the SPED department. I handled kids with autism and Yulimi Rodriguez Integrated School, which I handled kids with ADHD. I also have the chance to teach a substitute teacher in the pre-vocational class composed of kids with learning disability and intellectual disability for 4 months. Have you spoken to your family about going to the United States to teach? Is there anything that, such as family member, that might object to your leaving home? Are you aware that your family members may not join you here until approximately 4 to 6 weeks after your arrival? I'm very open to my family since I started with my plan. At first, my mother was hesitant about this, but later on, she supported me. She said, if that makes you happy, then go for it. I told my parents that I'm used to be independent for almost 16 years since I started teaching in Manila and they live in another island. So there is no worry of feeling homesick, and to me, that's not really a big problem. Of course, I'm aware that my parents may not join me until approximately 4 to 6 weeks after my arrival, but Still, I wanted to work it out so my parents could join me. Do you understand and accept that thesis is a 3-year program and after 3 years you must return to your home country? Do you agree to this? Yes.